Hello, welcome everybody. It's so good that you're all able to join us today. We're broadcasting remotely from all over Ontario and even Canada, and actually quite around the world. We have an incredible lineup today of students who are participating in the digital arts communications class and the speech communication class at Communication Arts over at the University of Waterloo. This is a class called 329. And we've put together a wonderful set of presentations for you. Ignite 329 is a series of fast-paced 5-minute talks, basically, by students in this class in 329. And they've been preparing all term for this, thinking about design and thinking about fantastic narratives and life experiences and stories that they're really committed to in their own lives. And they've been working over the past 12 weeks to assemble an Ignite presentation, which is essentially a deck of 20 slides artistically put together that auto-advance every 15 seconds, which makes this an incredibly fun, energetic, and passionate-filled afternoon. I'm really pleased to introduce 15 wonderful students that I've also had the privilege to work with throughout the term. And I'm just so pleased that we can all come together and do this incredible event, even though we would be doing it live in person in our theater for audience members in seats. We have all of you around the world, hopefully, tuning in here to become inspired at what these students have been thinking about and designing over the past 12 weeks. So without further ado, we have about 15 presentations, which will bring us right up to about 6 o'clock. And I'd love to introduce to you now Alexis Condota, who will give the first presentation. So sit back and enjoy.
Thanks so much for being here. As Paul mentioned, my name is Alexis Condota, and I will get started. Every day, people all over the world benefit from taking naps. However, every day, people all over the world get into a midday slump and don't do anything productive to change it. As students and employees, among many other things, we all experience stress in our lives. And now, more than ever, stress is a frequent part of our lives because not only are we working and studying, we're also living during a pandemic. During these times, we could all use something to boost our energy and improve our moods. And naps can be this solution. All it takes is a little bit of practice and some commitment. Naps don't have to be just something you watch your dog do from time to time or something babies get to do during the day. Naps can become part of your life too. They've become part of my life, and I've been really, really grateful for it. Too often, we're consumed by our schoolwork or our jobs, and we get buried in tasks trying to meet deadlines. Our to-do lists are never ending, and the day doesn't seem to have enough hours in it. We end up living our Monday through Friday in anticipation for the weekend because it's the only break we know, and the weekend never seems to last long enough. I've personally fallen victim to this trap more times than I'd like to admit, and I know I'm not alone. But it doesn't have to be this way. We can get into bed and join our dogs too, and we can add naps into our day. We deserve to be taking naps. In the age of work and study from home, incorporating naps into our day is easier than ever. After all, our beds are typically right behind us, like mine is, or perhaps just down the hallway. However, even if our beds are so close to us, people still have excuses. And a common excuse is that you just don't have the time. But a good, beneficial nap can be as short as 15 minutes and as long as 1 hour. Within this time range, the longer the nap, the more benefits, but too long starts to have negative effects instead. So it's important you set an alarm. Short naps can give you a boost of energy to help you get through the day, and longer naps can give you more benefits, such as increased focus and creativity. An appealing benefit of naps to busy employees or students is the benefit of increased productivity. Increased productivity can give you the boost you need to accomplish what you need to in the day in a shorter period of time, so you aren't working or studying for longer than planned, which ends up leaving you with time to do things that you want to do, like hang out with your friends or spend time with your family. COVID obviously makes some of those things more difficult, but overall, you end up with more time to do the things you want to do instead of always just only having time to do the things you need to do. One of the things I personally love to do with my extra time, especially during COVID, is go for hikes. Schedule naps into your day to receive numerous benefits. Although your to-do list will be growing by one more task, it'll be well worth it. Plus, once you get the hang of it, it's an easy one to cross off. Napping isn't always just as easy as scheduling it into your day and crawling into bed at your designated time. It takes some practice, but even the attempt of napping can be beneficial. Trying to nap, whether successful or not, gives you a chance to lay down and relax. If you're someone who struggles with napping, try to focus on your breath. It'll help calm you down and give you a chance to step away from your studies or your work and return with a better mindset. It's okay to put the laptop down and take a break. A nap will do you more good than another cup of coffee or a sugary energy drink. Clearly, the woman in this photo realized the coffee just wasn't cutting it. Next time you hit a slump or you're feeling overwhelmed, set a timer, put some comfy clothes on, and crawl into bed. Taking a break will do you more good than just trying to power through. Naps aren't just for your pets. They're for people too. You don't need to feel guilty about crawling into bed in the middle of the day. Self-care should be top of your to-do list. You deserve to be taking naps. Consider the benefits naps can bring to your life, such as improved mood, energy, focus, creativity, and productivity. Take a nap and wake up feeling refreshed and ready to tackle whatever life throws at you. Thank you.
Hi everyone, so my name is Grace and I'll be the second presenter for today. So my topic is basically on the idea of being high on social media and being addicted to our phones. So we often rely on social media for almost everything that we do. In fact, I bet most of you right now have your phones right beside you. So today we explore the idea of being high on social media, the signs that you're addicted, and how to get the relief that you need. So I often hear someone say, your eyes are glued to the phone. But what does that exactly mean? We're constantly looking at our phones and social media for entertainment, for information, for all sorts of things. And it doesn't help that platforms are finding more ways for us to consume their content. So I was inspired by a Netflix documentary that I watched called The Social Dilemma, which discusses how social media companies purposely make their algorithms more addictive. They use our browsing behaviors and patterns to suggest content that we simply can't pass up. Now, platforms are adapting to the changing consumer behaviors on social media. For example, Instagram recently launched Reels and suggested posts last year. Twitter had some upgrades, and their TikTok has now become the newest big sensation. There are so many platforms and features coming out each year. Now, while innovation is exciting, there's such thing as too much. Too much is subjective, but we can quantify this with a personal example. So I get daily average screen time notifications on my phone, and I realize it's consistently 5 to 6 hours, and I'm already struggling to balance my time. There's definitely too much usage in my life. So now looking at this picture, you're probably familiar with this image when you look on campus, on restaurants, pretty much anywhere you go. There's always a ton of people on their phones looking at social media. Now, there's nothing wrong with this until we become a part of this picture. Yes, of course, there are benefits to social media. In an increasingly digitalized world, social media helps companies provide better and more personalized service to customers, and allows us to enjoy convenience as well. It provides us with more opportunities to enhance our experiences. But with all this content online, it can get pretty overwhelming. Everyone is trying to push their agendas onto us, and the existence of features like the comment section, the like button, the buy now area makes it so easy for us to cave into whatever that agenda is. For example, we often cave into the fear of missing out because we want to be constantly connected to a community or to an opportunity. For example, when we see the latest trend from influencers and friends, we want to hop onto that bandwagon as soon as possible. Now, another example is misinformation. In fact, a CBC journalist once posted 2 tweets, one with correct facts and one loaded with misinformation. The interesting thing is the tweet with misinformation actually spread way quicker, which shows the dangers of believing what we see online. But the most common danger that I see is comparison. As they say, comparison is the thief of joy. It's in our nature to compare. We get caught up in the attention, and it creates so much unnecessary anxiety and judgment towards ourselves and to others. Now, hopefully, you've started to reflect on how a social media addiction can lead to the above points I mentioned. Perhaps you're also unhealthily consuming social media at all hours, like this man here. I know sometimes I catch myself doing a few of the things that I mentioned. So it's really important mentally, physically, and monetarily to protect ourselves while using social media or any device that's electronic, because we're the only ones capable of knowing which way social media will harm us and how we want to consume it in a beneficial way to our lives. But how can that be done? You might ask yourself that question. It can be quite confusing and overwhelming because social media itself is confusing and overwhelming. There are so many choices and so much to digest that even the idea of protection can be scary. But it doesn't have to be confusing nor complicated. It doesn't have to require great lengths or effort or knowledge. No, you don't actually have to delete social media and quit it completely. Here are 3 simple steps to start being more aware of your social media usage. The first of this is you can ask questions. And this is a very simple thing to incorporate. What am I really seeing? Does it bother me? How is this useful for me? Asking these questions is a great way to learn, and you can reflect and process information to better decide what the appropriate action or reaction is. Now, another way is to discuss with others. This can be a stranger, your family, or your friends. Even asking one person for their opinion can open your eyes to what you didn't see before. You might realize that you have developed additional views or need more research, which allows you to make more informed choices. Now, this brings us to the use of different sources. There are tons of different outlets out there that post the same information or similar information. Relying on a few different sources to piece together the whole picture is very important, especially when there's some type of call to action required from us. Now, I know it can be tricky to exercise caution because we're always surrounded by social media and it's everywhere, even if we want to avoid it. So even when I do a social media detox day, for example, I'm tempted to open all of my apps. Since it's pretty much impossible to get rid of it, we must exercise due diligence. Social media responsibility is everyone's business because we all use it daily in our lives, in our activities, whether it's for leisure or for business. It's important to remember that social media is only a product that we consume, a service that provides convenience and connection, and we must not let that consume us.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joey, and I'm really happy to be presenting with you guys today. So when it came to deciding what I wanted to talk about, I wanted to figure out a way to combine a lot of my pressing interests, and that involved early 2000s movies and TV shows, the importance of perspective and communication, misogyny and internalized misogyny in media. But the most important thing that I wanted to bring up was why Sharpay Evans deserve better. And today I'm going to be explaining how perspective influences how you see stories, specifically in childhood movies and television shows, and then how this could be extended into your real life. So I want you to consider how what we watched growing up impacted and influenced how we specifically saw villains and people in real life, how they enforced this idea of not the other girls, and what you can do now to see things a lot more critically. So during the pandemic, I decided to do something a lot of people did. I got Disney Plus. And this became a huge source of comfort for me. And I was able to revisit, a lot of childhood movies and TV shows like That's So Raven and High School Musical. And while this brought me to such a huge place of nostalgia and comfort, I also realized how different these shows seemed watching it 10 years later. And thanks to my communications major, I realized that what made me perceive these things differently was how I developed a better understanding of perspective and conflict management. And I feel like a lot of us grew up on shows like the ones we saw on the Disney Channel. Obviously, I won't just be talking. This is Disney Channel, but this can be applied to a lot of other things that we've watched growing up. But Disney Channel created relatable protagonists and villains. And the problem with this was how and by extension, it played into this trope of don't be like other girls. So I'm going to apply this to High School Musical. For those of you who haven't seen the movie, first, I am sorry. But also, this movie focuses on the two main leads in the center who want to be part of the musical, but it doesn't really fit the identities they have at school. But I'm not going to focus on the main leads today. I want to give recognition to the villain of High School Musical, Sharpay Evans. And as the main villain of the film, to get the lead role in the school play. But why is this a problem? As children, it's really easy to connect Sharpay's character to people in real life. I did it. And by villainizing her, it impacts how we see people who have similar characteristics. So what really makes her the villain? Well, first, she's a gatekeeper. She tries to keep the main characters from being a part of the play. But this movie also pushes this narrative of the other girl through this mean girl trope, the popular, feminine, blonde, therefore unintelligent villain you see in movies. These Disney Channel movies often fail to show the depth of these villains and provide better character arcs. And by doing this, we're conditioned to think that people with these flaws aren't able to move past them, and we put this perspective onto people in real life. Now, we're aware of how movies can do that, shape our critical view. Three quick things I can share from what I've learned. The first thing I want you to do is ask yourself, is there a perspective this film or show isn't showing me? In this film leads as protagonists that we don't see how they themselves are demonstrating negative traits. We are instead shown a disliked feminine villain, enforcing this idea to not be like her. Second, as a viewer, you have to recognize potential biases you might carry before. For example, Sharpay's passion for the theater was seen as overbearing and made her dislikable, and it can hinder people from a passion for things and fears that they won't be liked. She is a gatekeeper, but this doesn't make her an overall bad person. In fact, in the end, she ends up wishing Gabriella good luck, but was made a villain again in the sequel. So, for example, how do we apply this? Well, I think it's important to realize that these are steps that we can take when also navigating conflicts as well, with people we're quick to villainize in our own lives. So, for example, if someone says, hey, you remind me of Sharpay, take a moment to realize what that could mean. It doesn't mean you're a general villain. It could mean you're gatekeeping, or you're passionate, or you're very feminine. And those aren't bad things. So remember, characters and people are full of depth, experiences, and situations that make them act certain ways. And instead of generalizing them and labeling them as villains, mean girls, other girls, seek to understand where they're coming from. And from there, you can truly navigate through conflicts. And also remember, we're all in this together. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Olivia Terenzio. I am a fourth-year speech communication major here at the University of Waterloo. Thank you so much for everybody who is tuning in. I know we're all going through a tough time right now, so I think I speak on behalf of the entire class when I say we do truly appreciate you being here today with us. So today I'm going to be talking about a topic that may seem passive to some, but it is certainly a barrier faced by many entities in the sports industry, including myself. And that is the power of masculinity in sport and the barriers it poses to individuals wanting to enter the industry. I hope today that you're able to resonate with some of the information that I speak about, and maybe it will ignite a spark, no pun intended, to make a change in the industry and as we move into a more modern day society. So without further ado, welcome to my Ignite talk, Not Just a Game, the Power of Sport and Masculinity. So, growing up, many of us saw sport as a world of fun and competition. But for myself and many others, it was a spark that ignited a dream to one day hold an executive position within the industry. Yet, as I made the transition from adolescence to adulthood, I began to realize that maybe the dreams we hold as kids are not achievable for all. Sport is powerful, but its power goes much deeper than what is promoted on the surface. And to be truthful, the equitable practice it promotes, providing equity, identity, and community, is just not the reality. Masculinity has been seen as a dominant force pervading all athletics. Its influence can be described almost like a web that integrates and expands into all attitudes, beliefs, and areas of sport. Spreading into the minds of our subconscious, its primary goal can be seen to perpetrate corruption and reinforce traditional male dominance. The subject of masculinity is unfortunately extremely normalized. It influences our actions and thoughts while subtly attacking themes of gender and identity. And it isn't until we start talking about this issue do we begin to unravel the array of challenges it poses to individuals in sport. Traditionally, sport has been seen to adopt a particular version of masculinity. Those possessing female qualities, as myself, are viewed as spectators rather than professionals. Yet, for a gender that represents more than 50% of the population, I ask, why is it that we are continued to be treated as if we were an anomaly? The predominant platform that I have found to create and reinforce the idea of masculinity is, of course, the media. It promotes sport as a decorated arena built for men and supported for men, leaving very little wiggle room for those who do not fit within the orthodox masculinity. Basketball play-by-play announcer Megan McPeak once said that women in sports have being a woman as a hurdle to jump over. What a white male might have to go through to prove their knowledge, we have to do double that. Now, I want you to imagine those of color and those of the LGBT plus community. These individuals represent a whole other form of athleticism as they push back stereotypes and stigmas, hindering their true expression in fear of pushback and lack of opportunity. In 2019, I met Jessica Platt, pro hockey's first openly gay transgender woman. Jessica outlined how growing up, she felt as if she was battling a war with herself and the industry. For her, hockey was showing her what she needed to be and who she thought she had to be in order to succeed. Anything less, and the future was unfortunately unknown. So imagine feeling barred from something you love due to your own personal makeup. If the sports industry was supposed to represent a field promoting personal expression and community, then I think we all need to take a hard look in the mirror because the industry is far from that. We need to create a culture within sports that allows people to show up as themselves and have an opportunity to identify with the sports population. Representation is key. Decision makers need to start reflecting diversity. Community programs need to start implementing mindsets that reflect attributes reinforcing personal growth and resisting masculine ideals. Making these changes is not going to make the sports industry any less competitive or soft, yet they're providing individuals like myself the opportunity to grow and succeed. Nelson Mandela, he once said that sports has the power to inspire, the power to unite people in a way that little does. It speaks to youth in a language they understand. Sports can create hope where there was once only despair. It laughs in the face of all types of discrimination. Sports is the game of lovers. Now, while we would hope Mandela's words would hold some truth in today's society, they're unfortunately stretching quite thin. If the sports industry ever longs to become inclusive, to give aspiring professionals such as myself a chance to prosper, to give members of the members of the industry need to start with taking a hard look in the mirror and taking a hard look at the signs and begin to take internal action. We will keep fighting, and I will keep fighting, but you need to join the fight too. Thank you.
Oops, sorry, I was muted. That was a fantastic presentation, though, Olivia. But yeah, the meaning behind this title is that coding is both around us and within us. We just need to think like individuals. Oh, hold on one second. We just need to think like a programmer and find our reason to code. The intention of this presentation is to raise awareness of programming and computing for non-tech individuals such as myself. I like to explore its uses, benefits, and encourage people to apply them to their everyday life. So what's so important about programming? Well, technology has become part of our lives and is constantly evolving, which means jobs are also changing and becoming more competitive. The government has implemented programming into the education curriculum, and our prime minister has also said that. With that, I noticed that not everyone's familiar with the latest technology, especially when it comes to computing or programming. And as the years go by, they get more and more complex, where it feels like it'll take forever to catch up. But I'm glad you're listening. Now, a question for all of you. Hands up if you have or are working from home. Due to COVID, a lot of jobs and even education shifted to a remote experience. I know not all jobs can be done remotely, but what's cool is that programming can be done remotely. Okay, I want you all to imagine this. You've recently joined a marketing team in a new tech startup as an in-house web designer. Your main tasks include designing beautiful illustrations for landing pages and icons and stuff. Things are going so well until you're assigned to this new project. Your supervisor basically asks you to help build this new web page and take leadership in not only the design aspect, but also the delivery of the page. You have designed all the necessary content for the page, but have very little knowledge in how to create the page itself. So what would you do in this scenario? Did it ever apply to you in a similar experience? And what did you do about that hurdle? So I want you to take some time to think about that scenario and what, how it applies to you. So a very similar situation actually happened to me during one of my co-op placements as a marketing specialist. I was assigned to a task to improve the user interface of our website. This task meant I had to rearrange the HTML elements and improve the CSS of our buttons and styling. And I got stuck doing it. And I was pretty stressed out on that. And that's when I decided to invest some time into learning the fundamentals of code. And not only did it help with the task, but it helped expand my professional portfolio, and I still use them today. So a next question for you guys is, what could we do to change this mindset? And what is holding you back from learning programming? So I want you to take some time to think about that as well. What may be holding people back is that programming does seem very challenging, and that's because, the languages has become more and more complex to enable more capabilities to the point where it seems like it's too far to catch up. That's why I want you all to think about it differently. So what we will do here is treat it like learning a new language. When doing so, there are typically 3 levels of approach when adapting to a new language. So novice, the first level of learning a new language, is typically good for basic conversation. It's not different in the coding world. You typically use this for your own recreation, maybe to style your own online portfolio, or maybe to perform an analysis on a piece of data. This is a good level for recreational purposes. Second level of learning a new language is when you would be considered fluent, and you could use this for a job that requires you to understand more languages. Coding is not much different. At this level, you are comfortable enough to perform developing tasks. And with this new language, this is where you want to be if you're trying to learn a new skill to get that next job or get that next promotion. And then at the third level, you're basically native tongue. You're capable of teaching others language. You're aware of slang or other play of words because you have practiced enough to understand more than the fundamentals. For coding, you have reached a level of proficiency where you're very efficient and understand all the techniques to complete complex tasks. And this is where you want to be if you want to manage a team, or you want to, teach others how to, code in that language at its highest potential. So out of those 3 use cases, which one resonates with you the most? And which level approach would you take, based on what you do in your life? So remember, we have the novice level, intermediate, and expert. After finding out which level fits you, you will feel more confident in your abilities and be able to apply this for your personal website or portfolio. You'll also be able to incorporate programming in your everyday life, whether it's for work and for your self-development. Or maybe it'll help you with a task at your current job, like it did for me, or maybe get you that next promotion, which is very nice. There's always more ways to learn, and always opportunities to expand your knowledge. All it takes is a little bit of passion, motivation, and of course, practice. Once you figure that out, learning how to code becomes pretty fun. Thank you for listening.
Great. I'm not sure why that header bit is there, but we will roll with it, I guess, because it's kind of cool. So, hi, my name is Darby Mills, and I am a 4th-year communications and business student at the University of Waterloo. Today, I'll be talking about the difference between like and love. Despite what you might think, this is not about romantic relationships, but will be broken down by listening, explaining, and accountability. This presentation is based on a blog post I wrote a few years ago, which was inspired by my beliefs as a Christian. I enjoy applying biblical principles to current contexts in order to inspire others to consider things from different perspectives. I'll be using the word like in terms of accepting people's life choices, hobbies, and traditions. This also pertains to naturally getting along with their personality or wanting to spend time with them. You do not need to necessarily like someone in order to love them. As there are different types of love, I believe that we are called to or should love on one another. This is the act of showing love through caring, respecting, supporting others despite your differences. In the Bible, a woman was caught in adultery and was going to be stoned to death because of it. Even though these were very different times compared to today, it's understandable how this could be repeatable. Someone does something you don't agree with, therefore they must be stopped. Rather than picking a side, Jesus said, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Eventually, all the men left, and Jesus was gracious to the woman by giving her a second chance. Today, this can be seen anytime someone is mocked, critiqued, judged, discriminated against because of their beliefs, actions, or appearance that do not directly harm others. We've gotten really good at calling people out, but have we maybe gone a bit too far? We should educate, inform, hold people accountable, apologize, and make changes. I believe that we can love on each other and create a better society without liking or commenting on everything that everyone does, because it's not our job to force someone to change. Our cognitive biases poison our outlook on others and society because we base our assumptions or perception of someone's entire being on one factor or action. This can be helped by taking the time to hear a full story from more than one perspective. Cancel culture is where society decides to culturally block someone from having a prominent public platform or career because of something offensive they may have said or done. Remember, there is a difference between something being illegal and something you don't agree with. Are we really going to be modern versions of angry mobs? Are we going to be digital executioners because someone isn't woke or progressive enough? Let's not let our smartphones turn into pitchforks. Speaking about cancel culture, Barack Obama said that that's not activism. That's not bringing about change. If all you're doing is casting stones, you're probably not going to get that far. That's easy to do. In a similar way, we cannot erase history. We are here today because of our ancestors who are not perfect either. A lot has happened and changed over time, but I find it hard to expect older generations to completely change their thought processes that have been embedded for decades. Stuff happened 100 years ago that were not analyzed with the same perspective we have today.
Instead of literally tearing people down, let's store history in its proper context and display the present in our presence. The bad does not need to cancel out the good. What I think a big culprit is for this canceling ideology is social media's for you discover algorithms that just perpetuate your own interests and likes, because it takes more effort to search outside of your curated content to confront difference. With at least 1 in 5 teens being bullied, especially online, it can be very intimidating to publicly post or take a stand for anything. Social media offers more opportunities for good than bad, as the public sphere has expanded through the small means of our phones. Diversity of thought is good. Standing up for what is right is good. I'm not disagreeing with that. But doing so doesn't require shutting down what you don't agree with. You can't control everyone, but you can control yourself. Brené Brown said, "When we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. This is why we sometimes attack who they are, which is far more hurtful than addressing a behavior or a choice." But we can change this by listening to other stories and perspectives, explaining our points of view on subjects while staying open-minded, and holding people accountable, without holding them to unrealistic standards. I believe there is so much power in this in-between, where you're able to have your own opinions while also respecting others. So please take the time to consider how you might be able to love on someone without necessarily liking them. Thank you.
Okay. So I guess I'm next. Hi, my name is Samantha, and I will be telling you guys all about storytelling in video games. So why this topic? Why specifically storytelling in video games? Well, to put it simply, I have been playing video games for as long as I can remember, and originally I never thought much about the stories in video games until one day when I heard my brother was crying because he had been playing Professor Layton, but you know, we'll get back to that after. When discussing the topic of story, people normally talk about other types of media, like movies or books or plays, and video games don't really come up in conversation at all. And when people do talk about video games, it's usually under the lens of retro games or arcade games, and that they're just a bunch of levels that people need to beat in order to get to the boss level and then finish the game. Nothing more, nothing less. And when people do talk about story in video games, it's usually limited to the games that are very heavy in dialogue and have a lot of cutscenes, and the story is very much just in your face. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And going back to that retro lens, there's also the expectation that stories in video games are very simple, very point A to point B, save the princess, defeat the bad guy, complete the missions, and stuff like that. Very straightforward. What people aren't aware of is the variety in storytelling when it comes to video games. From games that have stories that change based on the player's decisions, to having hidden endings that are only unlocked under certain situations. And even in some level design, there's storytelling where the resolution is just getting to the next level or the next area, and any conflict or climax is just expressed through the obstacles that the players have to face. And yes, not every game is meant to tell a story, but that doesn't stop people from finding a story. There are communities that spend so much time just digging into the lore of games to assemble this true story that people just seem to miss somehow. And you'd be surprised with what some people come up with. If you ask the right person, the real story behind the game of Tetris is all about conforming to the ideals of society, and it all just feels like a giant conspiracy theory. So how do people get so invested in this idea of finding the true story in games? Well, with games like Hollow Knight, where information is just scattered throughout the game, It's actually not that surprising. And what do I mean by this? Well, Hollow Knight has a very vague and basic plot, and depending on how the player plays, certain information is revealed to that player, which further evolves their understanding of the story, giving it more depth. And going back to my brother, yes, so he was crying while playing Professor Layton, and he was apparently very touched by one of the cutscenes. And this surprised me because Professor Layton is a puzzle game, and puzzle games generally aren't supposed to make you cry. Which got me thinking, what is it about the story in video games that gets people so emotionally invested? What is it about stories in video games that are so unique? Would people have the same reaction if it was told through a different medium, like a movie or a book? And that's when I came to the realization that video games are unique because the players are able to directly interact and actually be a part of the story. They're not just observers from the outside, like when you watch a movie or when you read a book. And there's just something so special about that. Just being able to be an active participant in the story and being able to talk to those characters, it makes the story come to life in a way that I just never seen anywhere else or even experienced anywhere else. And you know, you might be thinking, but Samantha, I don't know your brother. What if he's just a crybaby and anything can make him cry? And this whole video games thing is just, you're just exaggerating everything. Well, I have a little story for you. You might recognize this game from earlier in the presentation. And Fire Emblem is a strategy game where the player has to control all these characters in battle. And if a character dies in battle, they die. They don't come back at all. And by the way, outside of battle, you spend so much time with these characters, getting to know them, celebrating their birthdays with them, getting to know them like to the personal level. So yeah, playing this game, I cried a couple times. Stories in video games can create this really unique bond between the player and the game. And honestly, no matter how hard you search, I don't think you'll find anything like it in any kind of media. And so thank you for listening to my 5 minutes of video games.
Oh, okay, awesome. Hi, I'm Jackie. I'm a fourth-year student in my fine arts major, and today we'll be having a night talk with me. Right? So this night talk is about how the endangerment of animals can affect humans and how it affects everybody else. So global warming and human activities are the leading causes of why animals are going extinct today. So human activities such as deforestation, exploitation through fishing and hunting, and pollution have all increased the extinction rates up to 10,000 times faster in the past decade. According to the International Union for Conservation of Nature's Red List, there are 35,500 species that are facing extinction. So what does this mean for us as the human race? Everything is connected. There's a saying by Edward Lawrence called the butterfly effect, where small changes can have a nonlinear impact on a complex system. In 2010, the bumblebee was enlisted as an endangered species. Since then, honeybees and wild bee species are on the decline, but the bumblebee in particular are facing extinction in Canada. Victoria McVeigh, a researcher from the University of Vermont, says that in the last 10 years, there has been an 89% decrease in the abundance of bumblebees compared to other bees. If bees were to go extinct, the availability and variety of fresh produce that we have will drastically decrease. As such, we won't be able to enjoy these fresh produce at the price that we do today. So why does helping animals matter so much to me? Sharing from my personal experiences, I once helped an animal and gained something in return. This cat's name is Blanca. She's actually a stray cat that frequently visited our neighborhood when I was in middle school. And at one point I started to feed and take care of her. Blanca was the one that showed me helping animals can have its benefits. Blanca actually stayed in our neighborhood during the time we had a mice problem. Because Blanca stayed, we were able to keep control of the overpopulation of mice. As such, she showed me how it's important to keep the balance of the ecosystem, and if there is a disruption, it will affect us as humans. So what do we do to help? Another way is learning about the endangered species in your area and spreading that awareness. As they say, knowledge is power. Another way is visiting national live refuges or conservation areas, as scientists do a lot of research about these species and basically knowing how to protect these habitats. Another way is adjusting our homes to be more wildlife friendly. As such, we keep our garbage in shelters or locking our pet doors at night. Another way is putting decorations on our windows to help birds from collision. If we have a garden, we should plant more native plants, as many native species are fighting with invasive species for those same resources. Another way is when we're planting plants to not use herbicides or pesticides, as this is really toxic to the environment. Even if they're biodegradable, they do build up in the soil over time and travel through the food system. Another way is when you're driving through conservation areas or developed areas is to just be more aware, as many animals are crossing the roads daily because the roads divide their habitats. At first, these things seem like it's redundant when done by one person, but as described by the butterfly effect, one butterfly flap can start a tsunami on the other side of the world. There has been success stories. As of now, there are 48 species being saved from extinction through conservation efforts made by the UN Convention of Biodiversity. With everyone's combined efforts, we are able to save many endangered species, and as such, we are also saving ourselves. Thank you for listening to my presentation.
Hi guys, hello. Thank you for being here. I'm Gurkern and I'm 4B computer science student here at the University of Waterloo. Today I have got this opportunity to talk about real threat, which is global warming. So let's start. During my last 5 years in Waterloo, I have personally witnessed some effects of climate change. I think that there is a serious need to address this issue, which is why I will be talking about the causes, consequences, and solution to this problem. Some of the most life-changing effects of global warming in the past have been rising temperatures, droughts, loss of sea ice, etc. The 5 warmest years from 19th century to 21st century have occurred since 2050. Global warming occurs when greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, and other air pollutants collect in the atmosphere and trap the heat, which eventually increases the temperature. The reason why I chose this topic is even if this problem is not visible to the human eye, it is real. Over the last 50 years, due to global warming, the average temperature has increased at the fastest pace in record history. For centuries, human activities such as burning fossil fuel is mainly responsible for this. According to NASA, deforestation, fires, and other disturbances release an average of 8.1 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide per year. The effects of global warming are global. They are also more prominent in some regions than others, such as Arctic, Africa, small islands, and Asian megadeltas. We have witnessed the damages caused by global warming through the growing trend of more destructive climate disasters, such as Australian wildfires, South Asian floods, and deadly cyclones. Can it be fixed overnight? As I mentioned before, global warming is caused by human activity over centuries. Reverting its effects cannot happen overnight, but can happen in the near future with the help of every one of us. Solutions such as usage of renewable energy, reducing water waste, and shrinking your carbon profile exist, but their sole existence is not enough. These solutions are useless if people are not made aware of. Spread awareness. The most powerful and essential solution is spreading awareness, which can be done through social media and other online platforms. Every single one of us can bring a change by educating people around us. Social media can enlighten people about the causes of global warming and how some of their actions might be contributing to the problem. With its help, we can spread awareness regarding more environmental friendly alternatives. In 2020, over 3.6 billion people were using social media around the world, and this number is only going to increase. News travel at an alarming fast rate on these media platforms. Activists also use social media to lead various demonstrations, meetings, and start online trends to get the younger population more involved. For example, Greta Thunberg has created the hashtag Fridays for Future. Having demonstrations broadcast live on social media create a strong. A lot of people think that information transmitted on social media might not be reliable. However, major organizations such as WHO, WWF, and Greenpeace use social media to share information. Spreading awareness can be done using word of mouth, hosting fundraising events, and organizing educational events, which are also effective way of educating people around us. Findings showed that 98.3% of the respondents heard about the climate change through social media, while 48.6% discussed it with friends on the network. Facebook had the largest subscription out of all. I took this picture of Athabasca Glacier, Alberta, on my way to British Columbia. Not so long time ago, this glacier was right where I took this picture from. It is real. Global warming is causing more extreme heat waves and further melting down of mountain glaciers. Let me give you a glimpse of future. If no action is taken by 2030, it is expected that the temperature of the world will warm up by 1.5 to 8 degrees Celsius. This is enough to sustainably increase sea levels, causing many islands to sink. Is this the future we want for our future generations? Clear answer is no. Therefore, we should do our part of spreading awareness. It is rightfully said that knowledge increases by sharing, not by saving. I believe every one of us here must change our daily habits and spread awareness through social media to educate more people to be able to make a difference. Global warming is a priority. Thank you. Thank you. That's all.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Dolward, and welcome to my final Ignite presentation. I really appreciate you all being here today. I'm so excited to talk to you about how you can turn your artistic hobby into a business with the help of e-commerce. But before I get into the logistics of how you can achieve this, let's first consider the many reasons why you should turn your artistic hobby into a business. With the volatility of today's job market, very few of us
Okay, it looks like we might be having a problem viewing my screen. Okay, maybe we can just pause this for a moment. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then try again. Can you guys see this better? Okay. Okay, I'm just going to start over if that's all right. Just give me one moment. Okay. All right, sorry about that, everyone. So like I said before, my name is Megan, and I'm really excited to share with you my final Ignite presentation. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm excited to talk to you about how you can turn your artistic hobby into a business with the help of e-commerce. But before I discuss the logistics of how you can do this, let's first consider the many reasons why you should turn your artistic hobby into a business. With the volatility of today's job market, very few of us have true job security. Especially for those of us in entry-level roles, there's usually less security as we have limited experience and expertise in our field. Having multiple streams of income can provide an extra buffer for those worried about job security. If a situation forces you to leave your current company, then another stream of income can make this transition a lot more manageable. Additionally, many creative people decide to turn their artistic hobby into a business because they want to develop a new skill set. Many people can become quite specialized in their field, and sometimes a change is needed. Turning your artistic hobby into a business can allow you to learn interact with, develop new business skills. Okay, final reason to turn your creative hobby into a business is that it will bring some excitement into your life. There's nothing worse than feeling stagnant and having the same boring routine. Turning your creative hobby into a business will certainly open you up to new experiences and interactions. You'll be exposed to a whole new set of challenges, and you'll get to interact with new people from all over the world. Now it's time to discuss how you can turn your creative hobby into a business. First, you need to consider your artistic hobbies. Are you a skilled photographer, or are you an avid painter? Think about how you spend your free time. Now it's time to consider the platform to sell on. If you're selling tangible products, then consider Etsy, Amazon, or Shopify. If you're selling digital designs, then look into Redbubble or Teespring. And if you're selling a service, then consider Fiverr or Upwork. Last year, I launched my first creative business. I've always enjoyed graphic design and basically lived exclusively in cozy clothing during the pandemic. This motivated me to put my designs on comfortable apparel and sell on Etsy. There were a few things I had to learn in order to gain some success, and the first one was how to gain traffic. I would recommend starting with social media, such as Pinterest and Instagram, to reach potential customers. Another really important consideration is product photography. If a listing photo isn't eye-catching and beautiful, then customers won't make a purchase. Ensure that your product photos are bright, clean, and they align with the branding of your shop. One of the most critical things I learned was the importance of delighting customers. If you do this, then there's a good chance that they'll leave a review, share their experience, or purchase again in the future. To create a great experience, I always try to follow up with my customers after their order is delivered. One of my customers, Colette, was so happy with her experience that she's purchased nearly 15 items from me over the last 6 months. My final recommendation for new sellers is to observe trends. If a trend fits within your niche, then it might be worthwhile to develop a product around it, given that there is some known high demand.
After nearly 6 months of developing my own Etsy shop using these tips and tricks, I was able to generate nearly 500 sales, which puts me at the top 10% of Etsy sellers. It has been really fun sharing my artistic hobbies with others. I hope to grow the shop further by expanding my marketing efforts and by adding new types of products. If I've successfully convinced you to start a creative business, then there's one thing that you must do next. Think about the hobbies that you're engaged with regularly and consider how you can repackage them with e-commerce to turn them into a business. Selling an artistic product or service is a very fun and rewarding experience. I hope that you consider how you can share your artistic talents with others by leveraging e-commerce. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. My name is Hermal Munasinga, and I'm a student and designer at the University of Waterloo. And today I'd like to talk about a lesser known element of music, which is the power of good album artwork. Now, I want you to take a moment and fill in this empty canvas with an album cover that means a lot to you, whether it's something that got you through a rough time or if it's something that got you up and moving. Fill this album cover canvas with something that just means a lot to you and something that is special to you. For me, it's Circles by Mac Miller. This album holds a special place in my heart, and it is a posthumous album cover which illustrates the life of Mac Miller. It's very classy, elegant, and evokes a lot of emotions. Now, posthumous album covers aren't always done well. This is true for The Stars Aim for the Moon by Pot Smoke. It's really just put together in a really tacky way. It's just a bunch of Google images cut up and put together. And it got a lot of severe backlash from the public. A lot of people were angry with it. They didn't think it was elegant or classy. So much backlash, in fact, that they opened it up so that freelance designers could come and make their own album cover for the project. This is what they ended up with, which is a much more respectful way to honor somebody's death. Now, when it comes to bad album covers, it's not always posthumous album covers. This is Back to the Trap House by Gucci Mane. Now, I don't even need to explain to you guys why this is a bad album cover. Just looking at it, it looks really gross, just like a bunch of the early Gucci Mane album covers look like. Gucci just puts a bunch of different things in, and it's really overbearing. But you guys might ask me, why is this so important? And who cares about the cover if the music is good? And why am I being so toxic about what seems to be just a glamorized stock photo? Well, I think Yay by Kanye West is a really good way to illustrate the importance of this. You see, Yay, it's really just a zoomed in picture of some mountains in Wyoming. It looks really effortless and really random. It doesn't really captivate an audience, and it shows in the first week sales numbers. It didn't do well, which is interesting because Kanye West has consistently put out great sales numbers in his first week. But when we look at the album covers prior, we have all these creatively designed album covers. So some of you guys may say, oh, Kanye's washed. The album cover doesn't have to do anything with the sales. It's because his music sucks now. But Kids See Ghosts was released not even a month later and was much more successful than Ye was. And Kids See Ghosts is designed by Takashi Murakami. It's a lot brighter. It has a lot more colors. It's more vibrant. And it reflects that in the sales because it's a much more valuable piece of artwork. But I'm not going to sit here and just slander designers all day. I have to be able to bring something to the table. So how do we create a valuable piece of artwork? Well, since the dawn of creativity, the answers have been there all along. It's just that we haven't really been paying that much attention to it sometimes. Valuable artwork has to be relevant, it has to be creative, and it has to be memorable. And once you put all of these things together, that's when you have an opportunity to create something special. So let's consider relevancy. Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly is the epitome of relevancy. It is a great example of when the music is reflected in the art. The music is a great representation of Kendrick himself, and so is the cover. But how do we make something that's relevant? Well, the first step is we have to listen to the music. We have to get to know the artist and get to know what they mean. Ginger by Brockhampton is created by Brockhampton themselves. They produce both the music and the cover, so they have a great idea of what the relevancy is between one another. That's why the album cover means so much to them. As relevancy grows and a rapper grows or a musician grows, their art should grow too. Chance the Rapper's cover started with him as a young teenager looking wide-eyed into the sky, a comic book, but it ended up with him looking a lot more reserved and a lot more comfortable in his skin. When it comes to creativity, Graduation by Kanye is a great example. Murakami once again put a great spin on such a classic bear that Kanye does in a lot of his designs. And it's fun. The album is fun. The colors are bright. It's really creative. It's unique and it's appealing. When it comes to memorability, Abbey Road is probably the greatest to ever consider, because even if you haven't listened to this album, you know the Beatles have made it. You know how iconic it is. It's on t-shirts, it's on posters, it's everywhere. It's just an iconic piece of memorabilia, basically, at this point. If you put all these things together, you get an example like Dark Side of the Moon, which I think is a perfect example of putting this formula together. It's relevant to the music, it's creative, it uses good color strategies and design strategies, and it's memorable. Like I said, it's on iPhones, it's on posters, it's everywhere. So I want you to consider your perspective on this formula and ask yourself questions. Even if you're just an observer and you're not a designer, I want you to take a look at some album covers in the past or in the present or the future, whatever. And I want you to consider yourself, how good is it? And I want you to apply this to the album cover you had at the very beginning, your white square that I had at the start. I want you to look at that and just think to yourself, is that album cover good or not? So thank you for coming to my presentation, and I hope you guys learned something.
Hello, everybody. My name is Claudia, and welcome to my Ignite presentation, There Really Is No Place Like Home. So our lives have changed abruptly in the past year, and for many of us, this has meant spending more time at home. These many days spending time at home has given us an opportunity to discover who we are. And for me, this time has been a time of reflection on my own ethnicity and on my own identity as a person. In 2017, I moved from, sorry, I'm not sure why my presentation isn't moving. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I'm gonna quickly stop sharing my screen and then share it again because it's not moving to the next slide. Sorry, guys, 1 second. Oh, right. So we'll just start again. Hopefully this time it will work. So like I said, our lives have changed abruptly in the past year, and this has been a lot of a time of reflection for me. It has been a time where I have been able to reflect on who I am as a person, what my ethnicity is, and what my identity is. And I feel like that is something that many people can relate on today. It is something that we've all been reflecting on lately because of the current pandemic. And in 2017, I moved from Honduras to Canada to pursue my studies at the University of Waterloo. I moved because Canada provided me with an education I could not obtain back home. When I got accepted to the university, I was very excited. I thought of this not only as an opportunity to study abroad, but also an opportunity to escape my own country. I never really had a bad relationship with Honduras, but I realized that I truly crave this change. And it was because Honduras always had a lot of issues with corruption, poverty, and security. And this always made me believe that if I could leave, if I could change my own surroundings, that I would be able to do more. So I moved with the idea of leaving it all behind. I remember telling my friends and my family that I was tired of my own culture and that I believe I would truly be a better fit in Canada. And instead of being really happy or relieved for the change, I just wanted to leave. And when I first moved to Canada, I felt empowered. I was in what I like to call the honeymoon stage. I remember telling my mom I was so happy for the change and that I took this opportunity as a new beginning. And everything was perfect, the perfect fit, if you could say. The colder climate felt like a break from the usual tropical weather. The change of language felt like an opportunity to practice my bilingualism. And everything was just the way I wanted. And so I was determined to start again. I was not homesick. I was building a new home. I wanted to form part of my environment so badly that I had forgotten about my own. I had forgotten where I was really from. And this stage, this euphoric and happy stage I was in, only lasted a few days. After my first week in Canada had passed, I realized that even though Canada was great, I missed everything that Honduras had to offer. I missed everything that represented my home. I was officially homesick, not because I was unhappy with being here, but because I was unhappy that I had forgotten my home. And with that, I had forgotten who I really was. And I had lost myself within the whole moving process. Suddenly, the rich color of the markets, the sunny skies, the warm weather, the taste of the food, and the overall vibrant culture of Honduras was now so obvious. Everything about it was just unique and beautiful. And even though I was far away, I appreciated my country more than when I was in it. And so I wanted to keep Honduras and its culture as a part of my life in Canada. I wanted to make it a part of who I was once again and something that I had lost before. So I started to look for things that reminded me of home. I began to befriend people from similar cultural backgrounds and look for stores that sold the food I ate back home. I did the things that could make Honduras a part of my life once again, even though I was far away. And this helped me create the balance that I now have, being able to live in a foreign country while still embracing my own, merging both cultures into one and making this experience one of growth and self-learning. And now I understand really what this change was for me. I realized that the problem was never anything with Honduras, but all to do with my own perspective. I had been ashamed of something I now felt deeply proud of, and the beauty of my home was now clearer than it ever was. And the thing that I learned was that being able to embrace your culture, no matter how far away or close you are, is very important. Appreciating that very important and crucial part of your identity will help you grow and evolve and eventually become your truest self. Because your ethnicity it's a part of your identity, and home is where you're from, where you have grown and become the person you are today. It doesn't matter where you are or where you find yourself now, which is why I encourage each one of you to explore and take in all of that your home has to offer. Take in your culture and explore those activities that you never really did before. So it would be in many ways. So for example, cook your favorite traditional meals, listen to your favorite local artist or to that song that reminds you of home. Share your culture with your friends and your loved ones. Try all of those new things that will help you embrace who you are. Because it does not matter where you find yourself now, being able to love and be proud of your culture, especially during times like these where we might lose sense of who we are, is really important. At the end of the day, it is always good to remember that there really is no place like home. Thank you.
Am I up? I am. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So welcome to my presentation. This is called Finding a Portfolio Maker. Before we get started, I just want to sort of introduce myself. Currently, I am a digital media producer and a full-time student attending my final semester at the University of Waterloo. My name is also Josh, by the way. I was a full-time student when I decided that I wanted to become a content creator, but I wasn't really sure where to start. I was definitely struggling with my mental health, and I found the interest of content creation to help me get through it. This was 2019 and around where this started. But seeing as I had no idea where to start, I had no references and no experiences. I needed to make sure that I had a portfolio to get where I wanted to be. So I now had a position, rock bottom. I made sure that I had nothing to lose, and I had one goal. I just needed to create. From my point of having nothing to start with, I had a very clean slate in order to build my portfolio. So I took this goal of becoming a content creator and I wrote it down. I wanted to get there, but I needed to start somewhere. So I had to collect my thoughts and I started to create a game plan. What that involved is that I took a lot of my projects. At the time, I had a few projects that would be considered content creation. They had a few merits on their own, but they needed more. It was never going to be enough. I needed an opportunity to grow and to grow my portfolio. So what I did is I took those 2 to 3 projects and a resume and I started to network. I made sure to distill the best parts of what I could do. I purged all negative thoughts about myself or about my worth, and I just kept trying. I made sure to polish the 80% of what I could do, and I made sure to do that through the 20% that I did do. After attempting to self-network for what felt like forever, an opportunity presented through a secondhand contact. He was a media producer named Peter Woods. I reached out and I introduced myself. However, I was very nervous to get this contact. I wasn't sure if it would work out. I wanted to make a good impression, so I tried to be prompt and message him right away. I was polite and I made sure to mention the contact that originally connected us. Peter said that I showed potential and he agreed to mentor me. I put together YouTube videos for some creative friends that he had, one of which is a show called The Whiskey Hunter. I still edit for them today, and it's about once a week. We recently passed our 1-year anniversary as well. Be sure to check it out. After working for Peter for a while, I wanted to push my skills further. I wanted to create freedom, and I wanted some more experience and to be a manager. I needed to go back to the drawing board and remember my goals. My goals changed thanks to my employment. I now wanted to be in charge. I wanted to create something for myself and others that now reflected my new skills. I needed to take inventory of the skills that I developed at this job. I now needed to apply my skills in a manner that added business expertise to my work. I needed to push myself further and go for a role that allowed me to be in a position of power and make business decisions. What that meant is I needed to create a job. Finding a job is kind of like a shotgun where you can spread it out. Sorry. Finding a job is like a shotgun approach. Creating a job is a dart approach. You need to be very specific in filling business needs and acumen. I started this process with a friend who worked at a physiotherapy clinic. We decided that we needed to target their digital marketing campaign for COVID-19 safety measures, which had been a place where they needed help in the past. After finding our target, we were ready to pitch our idea, our safety video. We needed to make sure our pitch was catchy, courteous, polite, and conscious of the time that we had in order to be efficient. Once we found the pitch and they loved it, we needed to do one thing: deliver our product. This meant that we were following through on making the best video that we could, given the skills that we both had. You can actually check out the video. I'm not sure if we can include links, but I'll be sure to include one. After all this time, I found myself to be reflecting on my achievement. I had a job in the space that I wanted to be. I was making executive decisions based upon the product that I was offering to a small business, as well as I had multiple hours of content that I could draw upon. My portfolio had helped me achieve my goals, but more importantly, my ability to tailor my experience helped me most. So if you're met with the challenge of creating something, be sure to establish your needs, make your pitch, and deliver on whatever you put your mind to. Because when you do that, at some point, you're going to be able to look back and see you have a lot to show for it. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I think I muted myself. I'm gonna restart if that's okay. Okay. Okay, here we go. Oh. Okay, sorry, I'm just gonna restart. Hey, how do I do the screen share? This. Okay. Okay, sorry guys, technical issues. Hi everyone, my name is Lenny. I'll be the last presenter today. My Ignite topic today is she codes and she glows. So before we get started, I have a quick question for everyone. Look at the icons below and what gender do you associate them with? The fun fact is, when I was photoshopping all the genders, the only female was the nurse and the rest were all males. Although we think gender equality is getting better because our society is developing, based on a 2019 US workforce survey, there's only less than 26% of women working in the professional computing occupations like engineers or developers. So that takes me to the next question. What stops women to pursue a career in tech, and why the number of women in tech has barely moved since the last decade? Why do we think of a boy when we think about developers or engineers? I believe this can trace way back in early education when we were still little kids. I remember my mom telling me, and still today, that it is okay to be bad at math, and it is okay to get lower grades in math because girls aren't as logical and rational as boys, so it is okay that you don't take a computer science course. While my brother was dreaming to become a scientist one day and flying to Mars, I was dreaming to live like Barbie, live in a castle. And my dream did come true when I was 8 years old. And this was my favorite photo for the longest time. So yeah, I believe women are lacking the confidence to enter tech. So here are two jobs that you both qualify for: customer success manager and enterprise cloud manager. Which one would you apply for if you're looking for a job? I personally would just go for customer success manager. But here's the good news for everyone. Several studies has shown there's no strong correlation between gender and job insecurity, which means that female and male both face the same level of anxiety when it comes to job insecurity. And there are two main reasons that contribute to that: labor conditions and demographic variable. And labor conditions includes compensations and hour of work. And let's dive deeper in demographic variable and see what's behind that. The first one is age. So age is things like, for example, you start to think about, oh, am I getting older? Am I getting less competitive in this market? And whether I'll be replaced by the younger generation. And when you get older, you begin to think, am I still capable of doing the job? And education is might be the determining factor. The level of education you get is the determining factor whether you get promoted or not. And if you're doing a job that is not your program of study, people might think you're not capable of doing it. And the last point is household. If you have a newborn at home, people might, and especially for the mother, people might think you're taking priority of family over your current job, and you're just focusing on your family instead of doing your job. So yeah, doesn't this sound a little familiar and taking us back to where we were before? Although there's no strong correlation between gender, and job insecurity, but early education and gender roles are still the major influencers in demographic variable. So there's so many reasons for a female to feel lonely, insecure, and isolated in an IT company because they're and especially in technical departments, because they're the minority in the team. It is hard for them to open up and socialize with other people and talk about things that they are actually interested. This is a conversation I see every day when I was working at
a tech company last semester and in my IT team. Although I love video games myself, when I see conversations like this, it is just hard for me to jump in and start my own conversation. So for the HRs out there, what do you really want to achieve when hiring women? And why is gender diversity so important in a tech workspace? And why do we have to look beyond that gender is just a checkbox? Well, here's a clear example for you. When Apple released its first health app, it can track your steps, sleep, nutrition, but they left out menstruation, a body function that is experienced by 50% of the women in the world, and it could have been found sooner if there were more women working in the team. So for all the girls out there, if you want to take a computer science course one day or become a developer, just go for it. I believe in you, and you should believe in yourself. And for the ladies that are working in a tech company, you're the role model for all the girls out there. And the way we educate our younger generation also needs to change. Maybe your daughter still wants a Barbie next time when she's in a toy store, but make sure you ask her, do you want to take out the Lego toys? Give them the same opportunity and treat them equally. And for other organizations, keep looking. Don't just stop searching because there are fewer female talents in the pool. Grow and train the women in your organization and give them the acknowledgement of their success and tell them they're doing a great job. Gender isn't just a checkbox. Study has shown that a company performs better when they have higher level of racial and gender diversity. And I have shown you why it is so important to treat young girls and boys equally. Thank you so much for your attention. And that ends my Ignite talk for today. I hope you enjoyed.
And that concludes for everybody our Ignite 329 for this year, winter 2021. Thank you very much to everybody who's joined us on the streaming service, on YouTube Live, and everybody who's come out. And most of all, thank you for everybody for getting through what has been a really challenging winter in a remote capacity. And so a huge thank you to everyone. Alexis, thank you. Grace, Joey, thank you. James, thank you. Darby, Samantha, thank you. Jayaki, thank you. Gukaran, thanks so much. Megan, Hiruma, fantastic job, everyone. Thank you, Claudia, thank you, Joshua, and Lenning as well for concluding. And a special thank you to Olivia for being very helpful with some technical support throughout the stream. Thanks to everybody, and I hope you have a wonderful evening and maybe you're enlightened in some greater way now. Take care, everybody. Stay well and be safe.